Flix buses may carry millions of passengers across dozens of countries around the world, but please don't call Flix a bus company.
What is Flix?
Flix is a global asset-light travel tech company.
Flix is global, reaching more than 5,600 destinations on 4 continents. It is asset-light, partnering with local businesses that actually own and operate the buses. And its technology has made Flix a dominant digital force, disrupting a previously analog industry.
Flix is a company that is changing mobility, especially on ground transport. We are the only tech player out there. There's no one else doing that, not at that scale at any time.
We do the pricing, we do the network management, we do the customer acquisition, we do the customer service through our tech platform.
Flix makes the business sustainable for bus partners. It starts with bringing extra demand. We also, through the operating model, give them the stability. Cash flow is stable and predictable. That enables them to think about long term and invest into new production, new buses in the long term. It's a win-win formula.
Founded in 2011 by a trio of German entrepreneurs, Flix swiftly established itself as a leading mobility platform throughout Europe and beyond. By 2022, the company had raised over $1 billion from investors, and it was ready to step up from startup. To do that, it needed a CFO, like Christoph Debus.
The first decade at Flix was about growth, was about conquering the markets. And when the founders, but also the shareholders approached me if I wanted to join Flix, it was really to write a new chapter. It was about profitable growth.
Why was he the right guy to bring on at that moment? What did he bring to this business that you needed?
He brought in experience on topics which we haven't tackled before. I think a lot of what we have learned over the last couple of years was driven by Christoph's passion to make this a company that is simply more mature and on a different level. And this is what he brought in because he has done it.
Debus brought decades of experience in the travel sector as a CEO as well as a CFO. His credentials stood out and he immediately fitted in.
You know, I think those guys were firm, they haven't realized it, but the system was down for a couple of minutes, so that was really...
He's, for me, one of the big trusted partners that I discuss everything openly with. He challenges me, he discusses with me, and I always listen to him because I appreciated his experience. And I know it's mutual respect.
Not only his expertise is very helpful in the finance function, clearly, and in the legal domain, but also he's a very strategic mind. He comes with that strategic ideas, and he's usually 2 steps ahead.
Do you want to have a special legal day, or do we have some special breakout sessions for compliance and legal talk?
He always has some phrases which I learned to like over the last years. One is, I have control, and the other thing is, leave it to me.
His influence extends beyond finance by design.
I want him to impact the whole company and to challenge me, to discuss with me. And this is what I was looking for when I hired him, not someone to execute the strategy or to develop something operationally.
In the past, finance was rather seen like a commodity. That's a term which I have heard, and all the processes are perfect besides finance, and it's the department of no. We really have said we want to be a business enabler. We really want to have, in the best way of the saying, a seat at the table and to jointly create value.
Last year, over 80 million passengers booked with Flix, and the company took in over €2 billion in revenue. For every booking made on its platform, Flix takes 30% of the sale, leaving 70% for its 1,000-plus partners that operate the buses.
So you're a tech company, you're a transport company, are you a growth company?
We are the #1 in Europe, the #1 in North America, but the big bus markets are yet to come. It's in Mexico, it's in India, it's Latin America, so there's so much opportunity for the years in the future ahead of us.
In 2024, Flix planned to build on its success by going public, aiming for a June listing in Frankfurt.
We have always seen an IPO only as a financing event. It was never a strategic goal. Public markets, they don't forgive. It's all about performance, and you have to live up to your promises. We have introduced a culture, we deliver or we over-deliver.
Then the company dramatically changed course. Postponing the IPO, Flix sold a 35% minority stake at a reported €3 billion valuation to investment giants EQT and Kuhne Holding.
What led to that pivot? What was the decision-making behind it?
The markets were not ready for IPOs. At the moment, IPO markets are so depressed that you only do an IPO, I would say it, if you really have to. The opportunity came up, and we had the opportunity to speak to EQT and Kuhne and realized that for the time being, that's the much better option. And then we worked very, very hard to deliver that deal.
It was not one or the other, and one was a bad option. It was just two good options, and I just chose the better one.
Think an IPO could still be a possibility?
You know, we built that company for generations. I think this is really a company which has the potential to be here still in 100 years. And on that path, I think one day it will end up at the public markets. That's my conviction.
For now, Flix's growth shows no sign of slowing.
The base of the Flix success obviously is the networks and the technology we developed in Europe and North America, but we're now leveraging it to the huge market that are coming. And if you look at the sizes that we see out there, it's gigantic, and it gives us room to grow for decades.
Mexico is 4 times the size of North America in terms of market potential. Chile, which we launched last year in October, is 2.5 times larger than the whole opportunity in DACH here in Europe, or like the largest single European market. So India is also an opportunity which is 3.5 to 4 times larger than the market size of the whole of Europe.
How do you prioritize that? Now that's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, that's a lot of opportunity, and that's where finance also comes in. So we really, we do a very thorough planning, the annual budget, and then we have a 5-year plan. And we have defined KPIs, a certain percentage of our profit, which we want to allocate into future growth. Call it like an R&D ratio, which a pharmaceutical company might have. And then together as a C-level with the team, we look what is the most attractive opportunity at a given time.
When Flix enters a market, it signs up local partners, giving them access to its advanced tech platform and suite of services.
We want to optimize and to maximize the revenue per kilometer driven. That's our key metric. We always ensure that we have the right balance between load factor and revenues and in very affordable price.
Is it a low-cost model?
The model is primarily about value. There might be other bus operators who can operate a bus cheaper, but that's not really what it is about. It's about affordable, convenient and sustainable mobility.
It's also about data and AI, enabling Flix to scale up and maximize margins where competitors can't.
What we are a data company. Machine learning is something that is ingrained in what we do. Algorithms that learn themselves, develop networks, develop prices. This is something we develop in-house.
Our website, our apps are second to none. Also our marketing approach in terms of acquisition cost per customer is really superb.
The market for bus travel is projected to grow at a healthy rate throughout the rest of the decade. But operators will face headwinds. Driver shortages are expected to intensify, especially in Europe, where it's already a concern. Rising labour and fuel costs could cut into profits and force partners to hike ticket prices. Debus, though, says inflation is not a huge threat to Flix's model.
Usually, if consumers are under price pressure, they rather decide for the most affordable mode of transport. If diesel prices go up or fuel prices go up, yes, it impacts us, but it impacts our closest competitor, the private car, even more.
Flix takes sustainability very seriously. It's committed to achieving net zero emissions in Europe by 2040 and globally by 2050.
Already today, as we are collective mode of transport, you have 26 grams CO2 per passenger kilometer. That's 9 times better than on a plane, and it's 6 times better than on a private car. And then also par with high-speed trains, given the current electricity mix.
Obviously, solving CO2 emissions for good over the next decades is something that is part of our DNA.
European manufacturers are under pressure to meet EU net zero targets, facing penalties if they fall short. Flix is taking an active role in the transition, working with Daimler and other manufacturing partners known as OEMs to advance research into hydrogen, biogas and electric buses. The end goal is a sustainable fleet that will lead the industry into a new era and make financial sense.
The expectation is clearly the OEMs make business with this asset.
Yep.
You have to invest, and you have to invest billions in developing that for the truck and bus industry. And if it's not a case, then the governments have to support you. And without these two players, we will not be able to transform.
Flix CFO Christoph Debus has worn several hats over 2 decades as a senior leader in the travel and transportation sector. He's been a chief commercial officer, a chief operating officer, and a chief financial officer. And he's run businesses as a chief executive officer.
Did being a CEO make you a better CFO?
For sure. Coming from the airline industry, I still see it like a cockpit. You have the captain, the CEO, and you have the first officer. But as a matter of fact, also the first officer has to be able to execute the flight and to deliver the flight and to be in command. And you know, this experience, what it means as a CEO, to take tough decisions, you know, to be always the one who is ultimately in charge, helps me at the moment as a CFO to support my colleague and CEO Andre in the best way, as I hope.
Debus learned a lot about tough decisions in September 2019 as a top executive at Thomas Cook when it collapsed into bankruptcy.
That was a very tough lesson. Unfortunately, the toughest in my life. I was there still the CEO of the group airlines, a very profitable, growing and cash-generating business, and we were meant to be carved out. And the day before the closing, you know, the top co didn't secure the financing, and I had to shut down one of my airlines in the UK immediately the next morning, and to release 4,000 employees. But we were able as a team to rescue the 4 other airlines, and that's still something which makes me very proud, but which taught me how unfair life can be, and also in terms of cash management, to really focus on the essential things.
Debus regularly checks in with Flix's staff at Munich's central bus station, not far from the company's corporate headquarters. This is where the passenger journey begins. Its agile tech platform keeps Flix's operations running efficiently under conditions that can change quite rapidly.
How far out does the average passenger book their seat?
We have very short pre-booking periods. So on average, it's between 8 to 10 days in advance. So I think that means a lot in terms of the sophistication of our revenue management and our demand planning and capacity planning.
What other inputs do you put in other than kind of straight up and down demand? Like if there's a Taylor Swift concert, how big an impact does that have?
So our technology seeks everything. So first of all, we look at historical travel patterns. I think we look at all the events, the big events which you know in advance, the Taylor Swift concert, you know, in Oktoberfest here in Munich, football matches. I think all that is factored in. But we see even things which we haven't spotted before, and then our systems are so good that they immediately react if they see somewhere a spike in demand.
Flix doesn't promise a luxury experience on its buses, but it does offer amenities that help it stay competitive with other transportation options.
When we started 11 years ago, we really revolutionized the market. Every bus at that time had power sockets, a very stable and high quality Wi-Fi. I think it's still much better than many of the competitors, even the rail operators. You know, you have a very good seat layout, you have very comfortable seats, you have here seats with tables, you have a toilet on the bus.
Is premiumization something you look at though? Do you look to take the experience further up the premium scale? Europe, this feels like a fairly standard coach here in Europe. Other markets, are they different? Do they take a different approach?
Other markets are different. We see in Latin America there are markets, they have semi-sleeper seats or sleeper seats, and then we adapt to the local market needs. Here in Europe, that's actually the standard product, what customers are looking for. It's the best mix between comfort and affordability, and we have always to look at both. You can book a free seat next to you if you want to have a little bit more privacy, and that's what many people do. And that's why we differ the product slightly between the markets, whatever is requested in a market.
As we move to the next generation buses, does anything change? What's going to evolve in terms of the product that you are offering?
Where I see a lot of innovation at the moment is first of all to enhance the safety elements, driver assistance, extra cameras, extra sensors to really make driving safer and more reliable. There might be one day that there is also autonomous drives for intercity buses, and we will be ready for it. And in parallel, I think the big technology revolution is at the moment on the sustainability element, really alternative drives, electrical vehicles, hydrogen engines. I think those are the two drivers where we see a constant flow of innovation.
The travel tech company Flix launched its first long-distance bus line in Germany in 2013. It steadily expanded its networks across Europe, becoming the region's #1 bus carrier. In 2018, Flix launched in the United States. And in 2021, the company's ambitions took a big step forward with the purchase of North America's largest long-distance bus company, Greyhound. The deal brought Greyhound's fleet, trademarks, a network of over 2,000 US destinations into the Flix fold.
There had been offers before to take over Greyhound, but then in the midst of the pandemic, 2.5 years ago, we had this fantastic opportunity to buy the brand and the network. When we took on Greyhound onto the Flix tech platform for network management, revenue management, we saw the highest unit economics in more than 100 years of Greyhound history.
My vision is to transform long-distance bus travel in the United States and make it one of the top considerations for anyone planning a long-haul journey.
CEO Kai Boysen imagines even more potential if state and local governments recognise the need to support long-distance bus travel with integrated infrastructure.
We need to think about the infrastructure in the United States holistically and think about the transportation system as one integrated system. An intercity bus needs to be an integral part of that system. One should be able to connect from one mode of transport to another seamlessly, easily. We have great success models in the United States. For example, Los Angeles Union Station, Boston South Station, or New York Port Authority Bus Terminal, or Washington, D.C. Union Stations.
Kai and the team, they are doing a fantastic job. They have really improved the product, they have improved technology, they have really made the production more efficient, that at the moment it's also a profitably growing business.
Flix is also thinking beyond buses. Since 2018, it's operated Flix Train, a rail network that uses the Flix tech platform and now includes more than 150 stops in Germany.
It's a fantastic market opportunity. This is a great market which is crying for disruption, as there are a lot of inefficiencies. It's not thought from a pan-European perspective, and we see already with our today's train operation, where we operate trains in Germany, that we have a good and decent product. We run really a very stable operation, and we can deliver really healthy margins.
The success of Flix's asset-light model has drawn comparisons to Uber, which launched the Uber Eats food delivery business to complement its ride-sharing core. Might Flix one day branch out, as Uber has done?
And I admire what Uber is doing and what they have built. It's a fantastic company, and the job Dara has done is really outstanding over the last years, because what he did at the beginning was focusing the company on delivering and on very few products, and build a very strong base and then expand it from that. We have two markets where we are the only player. We have a 100 billion market opportunity out there. So my job is also to keep the team focused and committed on delivering in this market and not get distracted by opportunities left and right.
Christoph Debus is also determined to keep Flix's team focused on the job at hand and the opportunity ahead. I asked him what he sees when he looks into the future.
So what's the opportunity that most excites you about Flix over the next decade?
It's this tremendous potential for profitable growth, and at the same time driving somehow the transformation to provide more sustainable travel options for many, many people around the globe.
You make it sound easy. What are the challenges of achieving that?
To keep the high standards in Europe in terms of safety, in terms of quality, in terms of profitability, but there's still room to improve it. It's to finalize the transformation in North America, and then really to make all the market launches, which we have done in Latin America, in India, to drive them over the next 3-4 years to success. And then in parallel, and that's a massive task, to build our train business here in Europe to also, disrupt the pan-European train market.
Complete this sentence. The hardest part of being a CFO is
not only to describe numbers, but to use numbers to drive value and be there with a business partner to the business.
What's the most important skill that you need to develop as a CFO?
Beside a strong financial expertise, you really have to get acquainted with the business. You have to understand the business strategically, commercially, and operationally to become a trusted bus partners, and therewith support the CEO and the rest of the management to drive value. The second competence which you need is to really identify exactly the areas where we as a company drive value, make that very visible and understandable for the wider team, and focus and prioritize on those.
I ring you up. I've just been told I've got a great job as a CFO. What piece of advice do you give me?
It's twofold. It's those two things. First, beside your very solid financial expertise, which I trust you have,
of course,
make sure that you really understand the business and that you can, based on this strategic and commercial and operational understanding of the business, support the CEO and the wider management team as a trusted partner. And the second thing is, don't be, an operational tactical CFO, become a strategic CFO, and really make sure that with the numbers, you use the budget planning to really allocate the resources where they create the most value for the business.
I'm Guy Johnson. This is Bloomberg.